Today, we're going to be talking about paid verification on social media. Is it helping or is it hurting artists and producers? Let's talk about it.
Arkatech Beatz.
What's up, everybody? It's Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, platinum producers, Arkatech Beatz. I'm Juggernaut.
I'm Mike Trauma D.
And we make the platinum production group, Arkatech Beatz. And this is the Music Business Podcast. If it's your first time here, welcome. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Click those notifications so that you can, get all our updates when they're coming out. But today we're going to be talking about this new thing going on social media where everybody is paying for verification. Is it helping? Is it hurting artists? What's the real thing behind this? What's really going on in the background? So let's talk about it.
Man, it's been a big shock for a lot of people when they introduce paid verification on social media, Twitter, and now IG, right? So, there's been a big debate about, should folks pay for it or not? Especially celebrities. Even celebrities are complaining in some instances. We just seen recently in the headlines, Doja Cat, she lost her verification on Twitter. She was kind of complaining about it, saying how, she shouldn't have to pay, and she started kind of, talking against people who pay for it. And, we want to know, what you guys think as well. What do you think about paying for verification? And is it going to be helpful for you? Is it, me and Jug definitely had this conversation back and forth, just trying to figure out what's the angle here. Is it a money grab?
Always a money grab.
What is it? Is it just trying to figure out as far as what's real and what's not when it comes to bots? Is it preying on your want to be liked and want to be, a celebrity or a star? Is it preying on that feeling that so many of us want, and kind of preying on those things that humans want, the attention, the everyone to like them. With a paid verification, does it kind of fulfill that little void that a lot of us have of being a celebrity, being standing out? So there's a lot of things, a lot of layers to it, Jug, what you think?
It's like a combination of everything you just said, right? The verification has always been the social status thing, validation for people, right? People feel like they're validated.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably like the main thing, is to separate the men from the boys, as they would say, right?
Yeah.
The situation though that I see in it, and I think is more of a money grab. I think number one is the money grab. Like, that's like, if we knew that social media wasn't going to be free forever, like, people have to realize that people are getting rich off of social media, and that wasn't going to continue to go on without people paying for it. Like, you weren't going to be able to keep reaching new people, new audience, getting leads for your business, and it wasn't going to come at a cost.
Right.
At some point, it was going to come at a cost. So we're supposed to know that. For artists and musicians, producers, it could be a good thing because, again, it's supposed to increase your reach. It's supposed to put you in a situation where you get seen first. You're supposed to get a little bit more reach within your audience. So say you have 1 million followers.
Visibility. Yeah.
Because right now you're being suppressed. So on these platforms, you're being suppressed and you're not seeing you. So
basically, if you're not paying, you're being suppressed.
That's always been the case. Like, if you're not paying for your post to be, if you're not paying for your post to be visible in terms of advertising,
right,
it's going to be suppressed. So the paid verification is supposed to help you get, a little bit more visibility. We're not going to say it's going to be the same as you paying for advertising, because it's not, but it's supposed to help you get more visibility. For your comments to get more visibility, right? Because your comments will shoot up to the top, stuff like that. I get it. If you're in the business of attention, which is, I think anybody that's in the music and entertainment, is the business of trying to garner attention from people. you want to get the attention. So you want to get the attention of the consumer. So from that vantage point, I would say, yeah, if you have the ability to pay for the verification, pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's what I think. I think, you know, people like to take it and seem like, oh, you know, it's supposed to be only relegated to, you know, notable people. But the problem is the gatekeepers are determining who's notable and who's not.
Yeah. There's definitely some favoritism going on.
Yeah, and it's borderline racism in there. Don't sleep, right? So there's some racist connotations in there for, especially when we talk about platforms like TikTok and other platforms like that, where, you know, they're not so quick to verify, you know, or
because like let's stop here for a minute, kind of dig in that area just a little bit. So you're saying that because this verification allows entrepreneurs, producers, artists, everyone to kind of brand themselves and create awareness for some themselves to help their business,
Yeah.
to you know, to reach levels of building their brand, their company, whatever up. You're saying that it's sort of like systematic racism? Like,
I wouldn't go as far as saying that, but that's what it could feel like. That's what it could feel like. It could feel like because if you have a gatekeeper that's basically saying this person is notable and this person isn't notable, and then when you say, hey, what's the criterion for notability? No one knows what it is. It's
right.
secret.
It's a secret.
Right? Like that's just not a notability situation. It's secret. It's not, hey, have you had X amount of articles in the last year? But that still shouldn't mean that shouldn't be the notability situation. Like, have you done something significant?
Right.
What is that? Right? Like, so that's really what the situation here is. It's like, have you ever had any press? Right? Because, you know, notability wanes and it goes up and down, right? One time, you know, Michael Jackson is the hottest in the world, and then, you know, it declines over time. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying that's still Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of these things where you try to figure out what notability is, and then
that's subjective to each person,
each platform. Each platform have different criterion on that.
Person, but let's go deeper. It goes subject to each person that gets your verification request.
That's a whole nother question there, because I don't think it's a process that everyone goes through. I think, like you said, it's assigned to a particular person, and they have to make that call.
So for example, let's say a person who works at one of these platforms gets your verification request, and maybe they hate hip hop. So here you go as a hip hop artist, producer, whatever, trying to get verification. Their personal bias, I mean, if they're human, their personal bias can affect your verification, and we wouldn't know, would we?
But that's the whole point of it. That's why I think paid verification works. Paid verification removes that. You see what I'm saying to you?
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, everybody will have a blue check, but everybody won't have the accolades.
Okay.
Right? So yeah, everybody will have a blue paid verification. Everybody got one. But you've already conditioned the public to believe that verification has to be assigned or has to be aligned to some sort of notability. Like, you have to have done something that's significant. So if you notice, people still ain't getting verified. You could look and see that tons of people still ain't getting verified, because some people really understand and really feel like they don't deserve verification, you know, because they feel like that it should be relegated to celebrity. Like, we've already conditioned those people for that.
Right.
So people who could go and get verified, they won't. Right? Because of that, because one, they feel like maybe they don't feel like they're notable enough, and then two, they may feel like it's not worth paying for.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or I can't pay for it.
Right.
Right? Because let's not act like people, you know, we're not going through tons of inflation, and that might be more than people want to pay or can pay.
That's true. And, you know, it's interesting how there were so many backdoor deals that were going on when it comes to these verifications. People, employees were making a lot of side money, charging cats five, ten,
$10,000.
$10,000,
Yeah.
and and the actual company may or may not have been eating from that. Depending on what's what.
But that goes back to what we said about the inside track.
Yeah.
Right? That goes back to that inside track bias. If you didn't know somebody, you couldn't get verified. So it had nothing to really do with notability in some
Right.
cases.
And
Something-
unfortunately, it's very similar to just the music business in general, where you gotta know somebody to get into it. It ain't always based on your talents, or it ain't based on what you see. It's not based on the creativity. It ain't based on all these things. It's really, for the most part, who you connected with, who you gotta pay, who could get you here, who could get you there, who walked you through this door. And you could be the wackest artist or got the most horrible beats, but if you're well connected, you could be all right. There's enough brainwashing. There's enough brainwashing, and there's enough people on payroll that will make your whack song brainwashed to sound like it's a pretty decent song. Happens every day.
But that's the whole point of verification, and I think I applaud Elon on this, and I think we may have touched on this before. Is we went through the pandemic, and with the pandemic and all of that stuff that was being put to the forefront, and then stuff that was put into the back. All right, so you had a whole bunch of information going out that may not have been right, may have been misinformation, so forth and so on. And what happened is that was perpetuated by a cycle of journalists that had blue checks.
Right.
Or people who were in quote unquote authority had blue checks.
Right.
And we took what they said as facts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that put people, that made people make decisions that could have impacted their lives and their livelihood. And I think the whole point of it now is to say, listen, these people that have blue checks, they may have paid for it. Like, make sure you're doing your research to who you follow, and just don't blindly follow somebody, because remember, before you had to quote unquote be somebody to have a blue check.
Right.
So that automatically gave people a certain level of validation and a certain level of a voice that everybody else didn't have.
So folks basically gotta retrain themselves, recondition themselves
to research whoever's talking.
But Joe, we always said that on this podcast. We've always said, be careful, be mindful of what you're listening to out there, who you're following, the information you're getting. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and you really need to dig deep in people's credentials. See who they are. What have they done? Stop blindly listening to folks who don't have no credits, don't got no numbers on the board, haven't done anything.
It's the world's old thing that we talk about. They talk about people who are academics and people who are real true life experience. Like, do you want the person who's book smart about a subject, or do you want the person who had the experience in the subject?
Right.
Because just because you're book smart in the subject doesn't mean you know it. Doesn't necessarily know what to do when certain things happen. Like, true life experience is always going to trump. Somebody who did it is always going to trump somebody who wrote about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you wrote about it, or I wrote the book on this, but did you do it?
See, that's one thing, man, that I love about what we're doing, man, because a lot of this, is really just based on our experiences, man. Like, our experiences, and of course, we've done the research as well, and we've read the books, and we've even found books where this is outdated, because when we were in that situation, it didn't really go like that.
It didn't apply.
Yeah, and I remember reading certain books and then being tossed into them situations where, I'm in a studio with this person, and the book would say, hey, you got to do this. But when you're in the situation, you kind of got to feel out when is the right time. because you could ruin the creative process at the moment. This is maybe not the business time. There's a time for everything, and you gotta be able to be in those situations and kind of ride these things and know when's the right time. And experience is what does that. Experience is what allows you to find those moments of, okay, I didn't do that this time, but I did it this time. I know what to do.
All right,
You
it's
know?
because it's all very nuanced, you know, and I think when we talk about like these platforms and we talk about like just the information that's coming forth, and it's because people were verified or so forth and so on, like that created a vacuum, you know. And then also what happened too is that we're not talking about the Twitter files and all of that, but that's what led to the decision to make everybody verified. Or if you wanted to maintain your verification, you needed to pay for it. But the other part of it, and I think you and I talked about it prior to starting the live, is the verification is going to go to the point where you have to get verified to be on social media, period, because we're not going to know if you're a human or if you're a robot.
Oh,
Like that's really the main situation. We don't know if people are AI generated or if you're a real human being. Like so verification is going to become more of that than anything else. Because listen, we can do your voice, we can comp your face, we can type in certain words, and we can make it look like you're a talking head and look like your voice in your face. Like, so it's going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to know if a person is real or not without a verification.
wow.
And that's when it gets dangerous. So I think that's where we're heading, because AI has become so robust and it's moving at such a rapid pace. It's like there's no way for us, or let me back it up a little bit, because as a person in business, when we look to do advertising with Facebook or advertising with IG or Google or so forth and so on, we want to know as advertisers that our ads are getting in front of real people.
Right.
So I've been saying this for 10 years,
Yeah.
that this been capped. Like they've been lying about who these ads are getting in front of. These ads ain't getting in front of the people that they saying it's getting in front of. And it's been a money grab for a decade, right? That it's been fake profiles, fake posts, fake engagement. Like I've been saying this joint for 10 years. So if I'm an advertiser, you got to prove to me that your audience is real. And that's really what the problem was with Twitter. Was it was so many bots, and even when he was trying to buy it, he couldn't get the information on how many people were real. They didn't know how to validate it, or they didn't want to tell him how to validate it because they didn't want to ruin the valuation of the company in the deal. So now when he got behind the veil, he's like, "Oh, this is all bots."
Huh. And the deal when he tried to back out the deal.
Yeah, it's like this is all bots. So I was like, So now he got to implement a system to get the advertisers' eyes back on Twitter. Like, listen, I have verified 100 million users. Like, once you can kind of get to that point, one, you got the income generation. Then now you can go back to advertisers and say, I got real people over here. I don't know what Facebook running, but I got real people over here that you can advertise from, and I got real customer data. So that's going to be a different situation, and that's going to cost billions and billions of dollars over time.
Let's not speed through this one, man. This you're saying you said a lot, man. And I think we really got to think about what's happening with AI now. And it seems like what you're saying is, with this verification, it's no longer, the purpose of the verification is no longer going to be about who's popular, or the purpose is not going to be about being popular. So we gotta erase that mentality that, okay, I want a blue check because I want to be popular, be viewed as popular, which is going to do this for me. The meaning of verification simply is going to mean that you're a human being, that you're a verified human being. And if you think about it, that dang, we got to get verifications to show that we're human beings
Online, yeah.
is a sign of what's to come, or I should say what is actually here. And we got to differentiate humans from bots, because what's happening now, when there's a war going on. There's gonna be two sets of worlds going on: humans and bots, AI. And as AI grows and gets more powerful, there's going to be situations, and they're going to have to do a whole lot of things in Congress with laws and everything. But it's going to be a tricky landscape to navigate if you're not positioned properly.
What we've been able to see with the COVID situation, I know people may not like what I'm going to say, but we've been able to see, manipulation happen at a very, very high level. So, could you imagine bots that can, basically pose as people, create engagement, create posts, create things that sway public opinion? That's the problem.
Yeah.
So that's what the problem is. So if none of you have started to play with these AI tools, if you're not using them, you cannot understand the level in which what you're dealing with. Like, it's going to get to a point where it's going to learn at such a rapid pace that it's going to start to insert things to manipulate you. Like there are some cases where AI has manipulated people to go through CAPTCHA because he couldn't do it. So it manipulated the person using it to solve the CAPTCHA for it. You know what I mean? So there's evidence that there's a manipulation engine inside there somewhere. So when we talk about paid verification, it's deeper than, like you said, about being notable and being, popular and so forth and so on. Right now, it might feel that way. And we're going to tell artists and producers, for the sake of this being a music business podcast, that, hey, pay for your verification, get your content in front of people as you can right now, capitalize off it as fast and as hard as you can. Because in a minute, everybody's going to have it. In a minute, it's going to be there. You give it another year, another 2 years, it's going to turn into that. Because it has to turn into the situation where everybody is verified to just verify that you're human. Because if I'm an advertiser, I need to know that I'm in front of real people. Like that's the real thing.
Disclaimer: this ain't financial advice. We're not telling you this because you're going to turn over some sort of profit for being popular once you get verification. So let's just get that out.
It depends how good your music is. If your music is good and you get in front of people, hey, you never know. You know what I'm saying? But like the whole point of social media is for you to increase your reach, right, and to build a new audience and so forth and so on. So if verification is going to help you do that, even a little bit,
you might be better off.
Yeah, you got to take advantage of it. Like you can't just sit here and say I'm not going to pay for it. Okay, then you're going to give somebody else the advantage. And in this business, you have to take every sliver of advantage that you can possibly gather. You have to take a compounded approach to getting an advantage. So you may get a little advantage on this, on social here. You might get a little advantage on that because you know how to, release your music. You got to get every single advantage so that you can start to, earn some paper out of this thing.
And you got to be careful that somebody else doesn't verify your brand and takes advantage of what you're doing.
That's a whole nother situation. And that's the problem when you talk about Doja Cat earlier, about her not wanting to verify. Like now what happens, what stops somebody else from creating a deep fake of her face, creating AI generated images, because they can do that, and creating another platform that all of a sudden says, I'm the real Doja Cat. Now she has to fight to decide who's the real Doja Cat. Or they can go out here and then say some real wild and ridiculous anti-Semitic type shit, ruin your brand, right? Because that's what happened in the beginning with the verification thing when they were vetting it. A company did something and then all these stocks got sold and it hurt the valuation of a company.
Right.
Like you have to verify yourself so that people don't take advantage of the brand that she built on that platform.
Doug, it's getting very difficult. It is really starting to get very difficult to decipher what is real and what is fake, especially with AI and even within music now, with artists voices. We just heard an AI generated Jay-Z on a song that sounds like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, I know we've said it that this was going to happen, but to actually like
To experience it,
to experience and hear it and man, like you wouldn't know the difference. Like you're telling me this isn't Jay-Z rapping?
and the funny thing, it goes deeper than the voice, right? Because you say it's not just the voice,
Not just the voice.
it's the cadence, it's the rhyme scheme,
Yeah.
right?
It's the content. It's everything that it takes to create a good record. And to do it so flawlessly. And the thing is, these AIs are still learning, and they're learning at such a rapid pace. So the music business, and because we are the music business podcast, we have some serious things that we're going to have to discuss and figure out.
It's a big problem, man. And I want, what we don't want to take into consideration is, all right, you go into the studio and you learn, right? Like you go into the studio, you're learning. If we're recording with Pun or recording with this person, that one, each session we learn something.
Right. Experience.
But it's AI now. I could take the music that's been already produced and learn from that.
So where's the real life experience? Where's the real life?
You don't need it, because
Where's all of those things that help create the person you are, the challenges, the ups and downs, the L's, the wins, the come ups, the
well, if we're talking about it just creating music, it doesn't need it. It's no different than you and I taking a DJ Premier record or a Pete Rock record early in our career and reverse engineering it. Because that's how you learn how to produce. You reverse engineer the music that you love. You look for the sounds, you look for the claps, you look for the quantization, you look for all of these things to reverse engineer what you hear. And then once you've reverse engineered it, now you can make something of it, of your own, because you know what it took to make that.
So that's where I'm going at. You know what it took. You have a love for it. You know what it took based off of experience. Now it's just going to be, it's a dangerous game, guys.
It's going to take your music and it's going to reverse engineer it. It analyzes it. It analyzes the pitch. It analyzes the quantization. It analyzes the sound. Once it analyzes it, it can replicate it.
How far do you think we are from AI consciousness?
It's here. I don't think that I think people don't realize that it's here. Like, listen, we're talking about paid verification, right? We're talking about paid verification, and the reason why we said paid verification, if you can do it, you can pay for it. It's good for you to pay for it. The other part of the reason why we said paid verification is coming and it's going to be here is because AI, right? And we want to make sure that people are real. If you ask me, it's already conscious. If you've used ChatGPT 4, this shit conscious. They just lying to us. Like, what version that we got is that 1% version. Like, but that 98% version in the background, that joint probably making babies or something like that, bro. Like, for all we know, like you know what I'm saying? Like for real, it's probably deconstructing DNA as we know it right now, bro. Like for real. Like I'm looking at this thing and I'm looking at whatever you ask it to do. Complex programming, legal briefs, the stuff that you would have needed years and years and years of expertise to do. I can dump it in and it's outputted in a second. I could take every contract that our attorney has given us in the last decade. I can say, okay, here goes all the input. Here go all the contracts that we've been using for the last decade. Rewrite them all. Summarize and rewrite them all. Add this, add this, add that. So we just removed that attorney from the situation. This is what people are reporting now on TikTok and other places. They're like, I would pay $600 for my attorney for this and that. I took the docs, I put it in ChatGPT. It's out. So if you ask me to join, it's conscious to me. Like if you ask me, People will say that I'm bugging, but from what I'm seeing, I think that this joint is already conscious. I think they're just trying to get us used to the idea of AI, because if they bring that out too fast, if you bring out a conscious AI bot that's out here thinking and moving around,
You're doing what it wants.
people will fall out. You can't bring out iRobot just yet. You bring that out, people all just fall out. Like you can't. People gonna go crazy. They're gonna think it's Terminator. All hell gonna break loose. It's gonna be like watching an episode of X-Men.
So what?
Like, you know,
so what it feels like is that AI got kind of quick, kind of fast, to the point where we don't know what's real and what's not, because it's happening so fast at a rapid pace that now they're trying to put the reins on it. Like, okay, we got to do this verifications. We got to know who's real. Like, it's happening way too fast.
Listen. They've already gone on. There's an article right now that says that, you know, that there's a political spectrum going on. It said recently over 1,000 signatories, and this is via Music Business Worldwide. All right. So recently over 1,000 signatories, including hundreds of tech, science, and academic leaders, signed an open letter calling on AI labs, which is for OpenAI, around the world to immediately pause for at least 6 months of the training the AI systems, because they're making it more powerful than the current one, GPT-4, right? And they're basically saying that it's moving too fast. It's going too fast.
It's learning at a rapid pace.
It's too fast. So what's going to happen is that what you don't want to happen in the already volatile economy is for you to introduce this tool that's going to replace thousands of jobs overnight. And we haven't found what we're going to do with these people that are going to be jobless. So you gotta pause it.
Wow.
You know, for the types of jobs that it's going to replace and the things that it's going to replace, it's like, how do these people have their livelihood?
Yeah, that's gonna, and you know, it's gonna wreak havoc. You know, especially in the entertainment world.
No person is safe, and this is part of the reason when we said, hey, you know, like when we're making music, especially on computers now if you think about it, we're making music, you know, FL or whatever, everything is broken down into MIDI.
Yeah.
All right. So that's basically programming a code. So a MIDI file can program an AI.
Yeah. Because that's what you feed it, actually.
Exactly.
You feed it the MIDI, and it could slap anything towards that MIDI.
Yeah. Or like if you talk about programs like Melodyne and stuff like that, where it doesn't even have to be MIDI. It can analyze the audio, and you can change portions of the audio itself. So it's already it's already way past what it needs to be. And everybody who's in a creative space, if you're a photographer, if you're if you're a musician, if you're, you know, even if a film producer, it's coming. You know, in most cases, it's already here. If you haven't already played around with Midjourney and stuff like that, there's a lot that's already here, and people just not aware of it like yet. You know, if people start to play around with these things and start seeing these images and seeing how these things are working, you'd be amazed.
So AI right now is on its way to, and I hate to say it, replace songwriters, producers, artists, pretty much everything. Like, if it stays on its pace and it continues to learn, because like I said, you know, this week we've seen a post. It said college dropout 2 with a question mark. Kanye West, right? And it has an audio
about that.
And it has an audio of Kanye, and I say that lightly because we don't know. It has audio of Kanye rapping on a maybe a college dropout kind of vibe, and everybody in the comments is like, oh, but is this AI? Is this real? And I'm going through the comments, and everybody's just confused. Like, the level of confusion, it was so obvious. Everybody's, is this AI Kanye? Is this real? Is this really going to happen? And the level of confusion was just amazing because I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if this was a real record. I couldn't tell if this was Kanye really rapping or this is AI. And it's going to be a serious problem. Like, what's going to happen when it comes to you don't even own your own voice. You don't, like, what happens when it comes to copywriting? Like, the laws of what's going to happen with these things. Is anybody going to be able to just, can I go get on the equipment right now, do all that stuff and put it out as our record featuring Jay-Z?
Technically, you can't. And, Universal said they started to band together with Spotify to make sure that they're scraping the internet of that and making sure that that's not being put out. Look, you got to either get, you can't stop it. This is the new wave. You can't stop it. There are AI tools. If a person doesn't want to talk, they can just feed all of their language into a model, and then you can just type out whatever you want the AI to say in your own voice. This is where we're going. Like, this is where it is. Like, this is, so when you see these folks want to put a pause on things and this, that, and the third, is because they're trying to get regulation involved, trying to find a way that they're going to be able to monetize it. Kind of like if you remember with the whole MP3 thing back in the day where people would, like, they didn't know what to do with Napster and stuff like that. They had to find a way to monetize it, find a way to make a new business model because it destroyed CDs.
Right. Yep.
Totally remove that from, it's gone. It's out of here.
Record labels were losing so much money and they didn't know what to do. I remember, oh man, that was the time.
So that was the time. So when you see a transitionary thing coming out like this, now they have to basically take a step back, tell you to pump the brake. All right, how do we get it so that every industry that's attached to human, workload doesn't collapse in real time? Because, listen, anything I'm asking this thing to do is doing it. And it's doing it faster than, the things that I've been able to get done has been exponentially faster. Things that would have taken me days to do, done in a matter of minutes.
Wow.
And really, because what happens is that when you're trying to work in terms of creativity, and you and I, we know how that is working in creativity. Creativity comes in waves. Sometimes it comes, real good. Sometimes you got to kind of bully your way through creativity. Now you got a machine that won't stop. It'll continue to output. Like, it's not a situation where, okay, you don't feel like creating today. No, it keeps going. So, so it's going to be different for the music industry. It's going to be different for everything.
So what's going to make an artist or a producer even stand out? Like,
you're going to have to do something that's essentially never been done before.
Something that's off the grid.
Yeah, and I think what happens here is that we have spent the last 10 years sharing sound, sharing packs, sharing MIDI files, sharing instrumentals, sharing samples, and this is what kind of created this ecosystem of everything sounding the same.
Right.
It's because now everybody is sharing the sounds, they're sharing the styles. So we've all been able to reverse engineer each other, whereas before you couldn't do what Timbaland did.
So everything right now is like a pre-cooked meal.
Right. Pretty much. And that's what's going to cause the demise of the music industry to AI. It's because of that. Because we've now conditioned everybody to that if it doesn't sound or feel like this, that, and the third, we don't want to hear it. So now we've put people into the perpetual loop of wanting it to sound that way. If it don't have this sound, it's not hot.
Mm-hmm.
They're not open to new shit. So they're not open to it. So now it's perfect for AI. Oh, you like cookie cutter? Okay, we can program that. Can feed it to you.
So, but what it can also do this could be a real opportunity for the real creativity to really shine.
You got to get on the other side, and the other side is basically you got to get on the other side of the engineering. Right, that's really the thing right now. It's the prompt engineering. It's engineering the prompts that create the outputs.
Yeah,
like you got to get on that side. So the same way that you and I would program a beat, we have to get on the side of programming an AI that outputs the beat.
Right, and outputs it in a certain way or a certain style, almost like to your own signature.
Yeah.
Like that the other AIs don't necessarily do. And then on top of that, you have to be very good at reinventing yourself.
Exactly.
Because once that becomes a thing and that gets thrown into the ecosystem, you got to now, okay, I got to do something else now, quick.
That's bro, but that's what I've been talking about, man. Like I don't think people really understand or really want to pay attention to like, you have to be able to bring your own, bring your own flavor to what's going on right now.
Right.
If you're not doing it, how do you stand out? It's crowded. This music business situation is crowded, and it's so crowded that we see what's going on like in real time. Like I see what's going on. I see people who buying music, buying beats. You bought the beat, now what?
Yeah.
Do you know what to do? How do you get yourself to stand out from everybody else? How do you get people to even want to listen to what you have to offer? And then if it sounds like everybody else's,
yeah,
it might help to get that initial listen. But
it might not stand out enough to make a difference.
Not in the
like,
long
why
term.
should we include this? We got 10 records that sound just like this. We're good on this. I always use the Outcast scenario as my my point. The way those guys were reinventing themselves for the first 3 albums. When they made one type of album and then the next album was just totally different. Like, what the? This is dope, but it's not like at all. It's like a different, and then to do it again and it's only switch up. And I think that is a very good example to use when it comes to just reinventing yourself over and over, time and time again. You can't do the same thing. There's going to be a point where you have to really be creative.
I think in the Outkast case, these guys just knew what good music sounded like.
Yeah.
Like good music overall. And I think in some cases, like, you got good music that's regional and you got good music overall. Like, you might, and you can't really reinvent yourself if you're not into music. Like you can't, like if you're not into it, you can't reinvent. Because a lot of times people would ask us, like, how are you able to make those pivot? And it's because we're able to make that pivot is because you got to get yourself deep into the music. Like, if you're not into the music that you're listening to, you can't pivot. You got
other shit. You got to listen to other music.
You're gonna be stuck. Like you know what I'm saying. You're not gonna understand the progressions of other styles of music. You're not gonna understand it. You're not gonna be able to reverse engineer it. All you're gonna hear is boom back, and you're not gonna hear it any other kind of way.
Right. Yeah.
So it's important. Like so they were basically giving us the education on how to continue relevancy and how to make music timeless.
Right.
Right. Because once that sound went out, does your music fade? That's the situation. So like if you go back to some of these albums, from Tribe or if you're talking about Outkast, so forth and so on, like you can continue to play those because those things continue to encompass the stuff that made music great and timeless. Right. So in order to stand out in the AI world, you're going to have to be real good at what you do because, from what I'm seeing, they're saying basically it can pass the bar exam at a 90 percentile. Okay? This is serious. You know, this is serious. But again, when we're dealing with an AI, this particularly for ChatGPT-4, it's a language model. So anything that has to do with that type of language, like, you know, reading, comprehension, summary, actionable stuff like that, it's going to win because they can do it faster than you can do it.
Yeah. But then on a creative aspect, there's art. You know, there's a whole lot of this music. There's a whole lot of things.
The art part of it is even more phenomenal. Like the art that it's generating is just fascinating, man. It's
Like I played with one and I just typed in a few keywords, just playing around. I typed in a few keywords, kind of trying to, the feel that I was looking for in a piece of art. I typed in a whole bunch of keywords for that. And that thing generated a, a unique piece of art that I was like, wow, like this is it. This is a one of one. Like there's nothing else like this. Like this is incredible.
it's incredible, man. It's an incredible type of situation, man. Like, can you imagine if this had been pervasive during the NFT time?
Like I couldn't even wrap my mind around that. So I was like, so I could be an artist now. Like as far as I was, you know, photos and pictures and things like that, just by
Prompt engineering.
oh my goodness.
That's the new sector. It's going to be prompt engineering. But you know, back to pivot back. Paid verification, is it good? Is it bad? Should you be doing it? In our opinion, yes.
Yeah.
You know, in our opinion, you should be paying to get your
for a whole lot of reasons.
paying to get your situation in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the situation. This is an attention grabbing business. This is a business of maintaining and getting attention. And you have to give yourself every competitive advantage that you can find.
And we need to know that you're not a bot. You know, we need to know that you are a real person. You know, that's going to be one of the purposes of this verification, apparently. Like you're a real person and you're going to be accountable for what you say.
Oh yeah. That's a whole nother situation, you know. Although I think that they're walking it back a little bit more in terms of cancel culture. I think a lot of it, people are not really giving a shit, and you know, they're doubling down, tripling down. But you know, there's been a lot of censorship going on in the last few years. You know, but for those who are on the fence, if you're an artist, if you're a business, if you're an artist, if you have something to sell or to be consumed, you should be considering paid verification on all platforms. Quite frankly, like you should be considering it heavily. If you're looking to have a competitive edge on your competitors, if you're looking to be in business for the long haul, you need brand awareness. You need to be verified. You need to have your comments and your engagement pushed to the forefront so that you can be seen and heard first. If that's not your goal, then I don't know what to tell you. If you're doing it for notability reasons, that's going to fade.
Currently Instagram isn't doing business ones yet, right?
It's coming. They have to do it soon. But they're not doing businesses yet, but I'm sure they're gonna do like maybe the yellow.
Because right now they're doing just real names.
Yeah.
Like you got to put your full government on it.
Which to me is kind of crazy, but you know, lately we've been using our full names, especially on our books. And if you haven't already gotten our books, the Songwriter's Guide to Music Registration, the Musician's Guide to Music Copyrights, and the Ultimate Guide to Forming a Music LLC, those are out now on our website or wherever books are sold. So, shameless plug. Yeah, it is what it is. It's out here. We're out here trying to help the people, man. Trying to do what we do. So you know, it's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. And I know we went over a little bit of a tangent, a little bit, just talking about where AI is taking everything, but it's all kind of embedded in that paid verification thing.
Yeah,
and people are overlooking it. It's like that's the real reason behind it. One, it's about getting money. Two, it's about proving to advertisers that you got real viewership and real things going on your website, or a real constituency rather.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is about, you know, just like I said, verifying if you're a fake person or not.
Yeah, which I think is can be a real issue. If you don't know if you don't know if you're real or not.
It's gonna get worse, man. You know, but we're gonna have to wait and see how it all plays itself out. That's the music. That's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. Phone.
That's it. That's all I
Make sure you following us at arkatechbeatz.com. Everything at Arkatech Beatz. You know. So until next time.
Peace.
Arkatech